We witnessed all kinds of wild playoff games and crazy comebacks in the bubble. The Nuggets fought their way back from an impossible situation against the Clippers and pulled off a miracle. So inspired by them, and since I already did the greatest finals comebacks, let's now go back to find the most incredible playoff comebacks in NBA history. So sit back and let's start the revisit. What up everybody, my name is Stefan and this is Heat Check. Let's get into it. When Golden State Warriors won Game 1 of the 2019 playoffs against the Los Angeles Clippers, nobody batted an eye. Yes, the Clippers had a fun team, but they were the 8th seed for a reason. Many even expected the Warriors to pull off a sweep. So when in Game 2, the Dubs scored 73 in the first half to take a 23-point lead at the break, thanks mostly to Steph Curry's 22 and Kevon Looney's 14, it was nothing surprising. When Kevin Durant hit a free throw at the 7:31 mark in the third, the reigning champs had their largest lead, 31. With the Warriors up 94-63 at that point, according to ESPN Stats Information, the Clippers' win probability was 0.01%. But those Clippers were known to sometimes pull a rabbit out of the hat. They had come back from 28 points down to beat the Celtics on the road earlier that season. It also helped that the Warriors, as coach Steph Curry said afterwards, stopped playing after they'd taken the 31-point lead. So, led by Lou Williams with 17 points, Danilo Gallinari with 9 points, and JaMychal Green also with 9, the visitors started to believe, ending the third period with 44 points. Though the lead was cut to 14 to begin the fourth, we were in for a game. In the final 12 minutes, Sweet Lou and Gallo continued to ball, scoring a combined 20, but Montrezl Harrell's impact cannot be overstated. He had 15 on a perfect 5 for 5 from the field and was 5 from 6 from the charity stripe. The fact that Doc Rivers' team played stellar defense and that the Warriors missed some open shots helped as well. When KD fouled out with 1:21 left, when the Dubs led 128-126, that gave the Clippers additional momentum. Sure enough, Williams scored to tie the game, but Curry responded with a 3. The Clippers guard then again embraced the challenge, hitting a 2-pointer despite some great defense by Klay Thompson. Klay himself had a chance to probably ice the game, but his 3-pointer with a little more than 30 seconds to go that would have given the home side a 4-point lead didn't go in. On the following possession, Landry Shamet, after a nice pass from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, made the biggest shot of his young career to put the Clippers up 133-131. A Curry miss followed by 2 made free throws from Harrell completed the comeback. Though the defending champs would prevail in 6, gritty performances like this one were among the reasons why Kawhi Leonard and Paul George would come to LA in the summer. When the Clippers took an 89-70 lead in Game 6 of the 2015 Western Conference semifinals against the Houston Rockets, you wouldn't have blamed Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan if they started thinking about the conference finals, or even more. Up to that point, the Rockets had scored just 6 points after the half, though they cut the lead to 13 to enter the fourth quarter thanks to a 9-3 run, during which Terrence Jones scored 7. The home side had all the tools to close them out. This is where the craziness happened. After Austin Rivers had put the Clippers up 100-88 with 7:38 to go, the visitors went on a mind-boggling 24-2 run to take a 112-102 lead with 116 left, basically killing the game. What's crazy is that Josh Smith and Corey Brewer, both of whom had joined the team in December, were among the key factors in the run. Brewer and Smith, to put it mildly, were never considered solid options from deep, yet they combined for 5 for 7 from behind the arc in the fourth. The run was also helped in no small part by the Clippers, who, fair or unfair, froze, shooting just 4 for 22 from the field in the final 12 minutes. The craziest part, however, is actually that the Rockets carried out the run without their best player, MVP candidate James Harden, who had shot 1 for 7 in the third and who was on the bench. Also, when we talk about the fourth quarter, which the Clippers won 40-15, the contribution of Dwight Howard and Jason Terry should be mentioned as well. After the 119-107 victory, the series shifted back to Texas, where the Rockets used home court and the momentum from Game 6 to seal the deal and head to the Western Conference Finals, where they would eventually lose to that year's champion, the Warriors. The race to come out of the East in 2002 was wide open, so when the Boston Celtics eliminated Allen Iverson's Philadelphia 76ers and the Detroit Pistons, they faced the New Jersey Nets squad in the conference finals that was led by Jason Kidd. That year, the point guard had such an impact on his new team that he actually finished second in the MVP race, behind Tim Duncan. Kidd dominated Game 1 with a triple-double of 18 points, 13 boards, and 11 assists. He would have a triple-double in the following Game 2, but the Celtics won that contest, so when the series headed to Boston, many felt that the final spot was up for grabs. The Nets came out swinging, thanks to Kidd's 10 points and 7 assists, and helped by Kenyon Martin, Kerry Kittles, and Lucius Harris, who combined for 29 points. They had a 20-point lead at the half, 54-34. In the third, Kittles scored 7, helping the visitors to even extend the lead to 26. The Celtics managed to reduce the margin a little, entering the fourth quarter trailing 74-53. The Truth and Walker combined for 11 straight points over the first 2:44 of the final period to make it a 12-point game, 74-62. Then, with some help from Rodney Rogers and Kenny Anderson, who combined for 15 in the fourth, the Celtics started to chip away at the lead. Still, when Kittles made it 88-78 with a little over 4 minutes to go, you would have forgiven the home fans if they waved the white flag. But the Celtics kept attacking and shot exceptionally from the charity stripe, 18 for 21 for the quarter. With his team down 3, Pierce continued to be in attack mode, drawing a foul first on Kidd and then on Martin, giving his team the first lead of the game. The Nets were shocked. In the fourth, they were just 4 for 22 from the field, with their leader, Kidd, scoring 0 points. With the score at 91-90, Kittles continued to do the home team favors. A turnover of his led to a Kenny Anderson layup attempt. The Nets forward, probably too eager to make up for his mistake on offense, committed a goaltending violation on Kenny. Boston up 93-90. A great yet risky defensive play by Walker on Keith Van Horn led to a foul on Pierce, who hit 1 of 2 but nonetheless made it a 2-possession game, thus icing the contest. All in all, the Celtics outscored the Nets 41-16 in the final period. The Truth himself had more points, 19, than the visitors. Though Byron Scott's men would go on to win the next 3 games and head to the finals where they would be swept by the Lakers, this comeback has become part of the Celtics folklore. The 2011 Dallas Mavericks were not your typical Western Conference 3 seed. Though they had a 57-25 record, other teams, as guard Jason Terry has said, were calling them out, saying they wanted to face them. Rick Carlisle's men, however, entered the first round looking more focused than ever, so when they won 2 at home and headed to Portland, things were looking good for them. Though the Trailblazers won Game 3, it was actually the following contest that is remembered to this day. After 3 quarters, the Mavs looked certain to make a commanding 3-1 lead, thanks to Dirk Nowitzki's 16 points and solid contributions for the rest of the team, including Jason Kidd, Deshaun Stevenson, Tyson Chandler, and Sean Marion. The visitors had a 67-49 lead. They had even led by as many as 23 in the third. Enter Brandon Roy. Though a spectacular player, the injury-riddled shooting guard had missed 35 games of the regular season. Yet, Portland had nothing to lose and hoped he would provide at least some of the magic that had him a 3-time All-Star at the end of the previous decade, provide he did. But before we get to him, we should give credit to the others who initially cut the lead to a somewhat manageable 75-64 with a little over 7 minutes to go. The 16-7 run that started to energize the Rose Garden also saw LaMarcus Aldridge score 4, as well as buckets by Gerald Wallace, Nick Batum, and Rudy Fernandez. The Mavericks, probably feeling the pressure of past playoff failures, couldn't buy a bucket. They would score just 15 in the fourth, including an awful 1 for 8 from deep. But they were still up 10 with 3:33 to go, 80-70. When Aldridge capped off a 6-0 run to make it 80-76, it was Roy time. Over the last 148, the guard would outscore the Mavs 8-2 by himself, with the highlight probably being his 4-point play after a foul by the Matrix, which tied the game at 82. After the Mavericks had come up empty again on their next possession, Roy once again took matters into his own hands. Once again guarded by Marion, he banked in a jumper to put his team up by 2, 84-82, Portland's first lead since the first quarter. Though he missed a shot with 5 seconds to go to close out the game, the Jet failed to hit a 3 at the other end of the buzzer. Blazers win 84-82. Talk about overcoming a large deficit and turning back the clock. Though Dallas, somewhat surprisingly at that time, would remain unfazed, winning games 5 and 6 and eventually defeating the Heatles in the finals, the Blazers never gave up attitude, and Roy's performance definitely belonged to the list of most impressive comebacks. Due to injury problems of their all-star and former MVP Derrick Rose, in the summer of 2012, the Chicago Bulls signed Nate Robinson to a one-year contract. The streaky guard provided some much-needed scoring. However, the Bulls made the playoffs as a 5 seed, and the feeling around the league was that Rose's absence would be especially felt in the postseason. In the first-round matchup against the Nets, however, the Bulls won 2 of the first 3 games, including one in Brooklyn, and had a chance to take a commanding lead. But entering the fourth, it was the visitors who had an 8-point lead. Then, thanks to Deron Williams, Brook Lopez, and other members of the bunch, they extended the lead to 109-95 with around 3:30 to go, a 14-point lead. A missed CJ Watson breakaway dunk around 15 seconds later, though, would give the Bulls the smallest of all momentums. Nate the Great, as some Bulls would call him after this season, first hit a 3 and then a tough layup. The lead was reduced to 9 with 2:19 to go. Robinson continued to pounce, with the degree of difficulty of shots being off the charts. Carlos Boozer completed the 14-0 run. Against all odds, we had a tie game, 109 apiece. Deron Williams had a chance to win it, but his shot to give his team a 113-111 victory at the end didn't go in. In the fourth quarter alone, Nate had 23 points on 9 for 11 shooting. Overtime. The 5-minute period wasn't enough to separate the two teams, which had 10 points apiece. Robinson, however, did prove crucial again, scoring 4 of those points for his team on 2 for 3 from the field, including a crazy shot to put the Bulls up by 2 with 2 seconds. But Joe Johnson responded with a 2 of his own, sending the game to a second overtime. The second OT wasn't that eye-pleasing, as the Bulls and the Nets each scored 6. Robinson had 2 of those points for the Bulls, but he fouled out with 1:03 to go and his team up by 1. At the end, a Lopez block on Noah sent the game to a third overtime. Though they were without their emotional leader, the home side changed their offensive scheme, and thanks to plays from nearly everyone on the floor, especially Nazar Mohammed, with 4 points in just 51 seconds on the floor, managed to edge out the Nets, winning by 8, 142-134. Nate the Great ended with 34 points in a little over 28.5 minutes, but this comeback shows that often a team that wants to go deep in the postseason should always be ready to pick up the slack if their go-to option is no longer in the game. The Bulls eventually prevailed in 7 before succumbing to the Miami Heat, who would go on to repeat in June. The Sacramento Kings were arguably the toughest opponent the Lakers of Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal faced during their three-peat. But when Rick Adelman's team took a 2-1 lead, people genuinely started to believe that Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Vlade Divac, and company could dethrone the reigning champs. In Game 4 in LA, that looked almost like a certainty. After around 15 minutes, the visitors led by 48-24. The Staples Center crowd was silent like a library. The Lakers didn't give up though, with Samaki Walker's desperation 3 to end the first, reducing the lead to 14. The referees counted the basket, but replays, not used at the time, showed the shot had come after the expiration of the half. Phil Jackson has said it gave his side momentum. The Lakers outscored the Kings 22-15 in the third period and started to feel they had a chance. That proved to be the case. The Kings were playing like they're suffering from the worst case of early celebration syndrome. Kobe and Shaq combined for 12 in the final period, with 6 apiece. What was shocking is that all of the center's points came from the free throw line, where he was a perfect 6 for 6. So with the Lakers down 3 with 27 seconds left, the Diesel made both shots from the charity stripe, bringing the Zen Masters team within 1. Divac made 1 of 2 free throws on the other end to put his team up 2, 99-97, with 11.8 seconds to go. On the legendary final possession, after misses by both Kobe and Shaq, Divac himself slapped the ball out of the paint, thinking time was going to run out. Little did he know he would accidentally make a perfect bounce pass to Robert Horry, standing at the top of the arc. The forward, as one would come to expect, made the 3 at the buzzer to give his team a 100-99 win. Horry, it must be stressed, was spectacular the whole game, not just in the final seconds. He ended with 18 points, 3 for 5 from deep, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists. Sure, without Shaq's 27.8 18 rebound performance and Kobe's 25 points, the Lakers wouldn't have stood a chance, but this just goes to show you that you needed big performances from the rest of the group to defeat them, and that these Kings were one heck of a group. Though the Lakers won Game 7 on the road and went on to defeat New Jersey Nets in the finals, it's safe to say that without this win, they wouldn't have completed their three-peat. When the Lakers took a 3-1 lead in the 2000 Western Conference Finals against a loaded Blazers team, many around the league said that the NBA should start to write their name on the Larry O'Brien trophy. But Rick Adelman's men, which included, among others, Rasheed Wallace, Scottie Pippen, though he was 34, Steve Smith, Damon Stoudemire, and Arvydas Sabonis, took the next two contests, setting the stage for a Game 7 at Staples. But when the visitors continued to ball, especially in the third quarter, Laker Nation felt it would have to wait at least one more year for the first championship of the post-Showtime era, with Wallace 23 points in around 35 minutes and Pippen 12 points and 8 boards and a 15-point lead at the start of the fourth quarter. It looked like the Blazers would surely not squander the opportunity, right? Unfortunately for Blazers fans, wrong. The visitors simply put couldn't buy a basket, going 5 for 23. Pippen had 0 points despite playing more than 11.5 minutes. Wallace was 3 for 9. Stoudemire played just 41 seconds, and the usually dependable Smith was 20% on 5 attempts. This is not to say that the Blazers are 100% responsible. On the contrary, the Lakers' defense was spectacular, resulting in a memorable Kobe block on Bonzi Wells and forcing the visitors to take difficult shots. However, the Blazers were also missing easy shots they had usually made previously in the series. The Lakers, on the other hand, in addition to contributions from Kobe and Shaq, who each had 9 points, got another 12 from the bench duo of Robert Horry and Brian Shaw. The exclamation point of the furious run was one of the most memorable alley-oops in NBA history, Kobe to Shaq, which put their team up by 6, 85-79 with 41 seconds to go, and the famous comment. In total, the Lakers outscored the Blazers 31-13 over the final 12 minutes. The only other player to score for the Lakers in the quarter was Ron Harper, who had 1 point in the period. This comeback too resulted in a chip, with the Lakers defeating the Pacers in the finals. When the Los Angeles Clippers headed to Memphis to face the Grizzlies in the conference semifinals in 2012, the home side opened the game firing on all cylinders. Lionel Hollins's group led 18 after the first quarter and held what seemed at the time a probably insurmountable 19-point lead at halftime. To make matters worse for the Clippers, in the third they lost Caron Butler to a fractured left hand and fell by as many as 27 with 2:38 in the period. After 3, Marc Gasol had 14 points and 6 assists. Mike Conley was doing Mike Conley things with 16 points and 7 assists, while OJ Mayo, who matched Gasol's 14 points tally, showed up as well. Down 24 with 9:13 left, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and Reggie Evans started to get in rhythm, cutting the lead in half and bringing the score to 96-84. But the Clippers were still far from coming back with little time left. This is the point when none other than Nick Young stepped up as the hero of the match. Swaggy hit 3 3-pointers in a row to make it a one-possession game. When Griffin made 2 free throws and Evans had a layup, the Clippers had completed an improbable 26-1 run to take a 1-point lead, 97-96. Rudy Gay hit a jump shot with 28.5 seconds to play, but after a foul by Tony Allen, CP3 hit 2 clutch shots from the charity stripe to restore the 1-point lead. Gay again tried to be the hero for the grit and grinders, but thanks to some outstanding defense by Kenyon Martin, his shot didn't go in, and against all odds, the Clippers had the win. Griffin probably described the game best when he said, "We put a mask on and robbed that one." In the 2017 offseason, the Oklahoma City Thunder formed their own big three when they paired Paul George and Carmelo Anthony with Russell Westbrook. The initial optimism, however, soon disappeared, and the team ended with a 48-34 record. That was enough for the 4th seed in a matchup with a Utah Jazz team led by rookie Donovan Mitchell. In Game 1, Billy Donovan's big three combined for 80 points in a victory, but the Jazz surprised everybody when they took the next 3, returning to OKC with a chance to deliver the final blow. Utah started off strong, taking a 56-41 lead at the break, limiting the Thunder to just 12 points in the second. In the third, the visitors increased their intensity, following a Jay Crowder 3 increased their lead to 25 points, 71-46. But what followed was a monster 22-3 run, enabling the hosts to cut the lead to 6 with 2:45 left to play play in the period. During the run, Russ had 14 points. OKC outscored the Jazz by 15 in the period, with Westbrook and PG leading the charge. When we entered the final period, the score was tied 78-78. Russ and PG unsurprisingly scored OKC's first 8 points in the fourth. Then the killer blows. With the Thunder down 1, Westbrook made a 3 and assisted to Alex Abrines for another shot that went in from deep. Though Utah managed to come within 3 with 2:22 left, a PG 3-pointer and another 2-point jump shot by Westbrook sealed the deal. Final score OKC Jazz 107-99. Unfortunately for Thunder fans though, their team couldn't sustain the momentum and fell in Salt Lake City 2 days later, ending their season once again in round 1. This is probably the longest video I've done and will ever do, so if you're still watching, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. Talk to you in the next one. Peace out.